My name is Kate McBride, and I am a junior at the School of International Service, focusing on justice, ethics, and human rights in Europe. My research proposal will focus on gender inequality within the European Union. My research topic is the justification of why there is gender inequality within the European Union. My research question is what explains the variations of inequality among genders within the European Union? And my research problem is I am studying gender inequality because I want to understand how conservatism in the European Union plays a role in influencing inequality in order to help readers understand the more important question of how do separate governments have similar gender inequality outcomes. I believe that the research that I am conducting will engage on a larger conversation about how political rhetoric influences social issues in Europe, focusing on conservatism, and how the effects of that influence backslides the idea of equality for all. Most existing scholarship tends to focus on independent issues of gender inequality, whether it be sexual violence, wage gap, religion, equal representation, or LGBTQ plus issues within these countries, without claiming where it originally stems from, such as an association of political or social ideology. I understand that these issues take place and create the inequality, but I'd like to know more about why or how it originates. I believe that these issues are part of a broader systemic system influenced by conservative parties elected to office, regardless of what form of government is in power. I will be looking at a large and statistical analysis because I am considering the different nations in the European Union that have several forms of government, whether it be democracies, republics, and/or communism, to see if there's a pattern of certain political parties elected into office that might influence gender inequality. My dependent variable is equality among genders. My key independent variable is conservative parties. My control variables will be education, age, and religious affiliations. For operationalization of my dependent variable, I would like to perform a survey of questions revolving around the four main issues of gender inequality, such as LGBTQ+, work-life balance, wage gap, and reproduction health, with an ordinal level of measurement with the options of being agree, somewhat agree, neutral, or disagree. I believe taking a random sample in each country would allow for a valid representation of the different countries. For my independent variable, I think the best operationalization would be to look at the legislation proposed that was passed that affected gender equality for the last 50 years. I believe using a nominal approach for measurement by marking a 0 for legislation against equality and a 1 for equality would be the best way to gather data. Any legislation that divides equality would count as against, and any that bridges the gap of disparity would be for equality. Such examples would include abortion, political representation, same-sex marriages, transgender acknowledgement, birth control, and etc. I would like to use all the countries that make up the European Union between the years 1965 and 2015 due to the differences of forms of government, but under the cloud of being one bloc. I believe it is important to view these countries during this time frame because of the introduction of the ideology of feminism and LGBTQ+. I think the importance of these ideologies have shaped the notion of what is considered the norms of family, career, and education, and that they need to be addressed when looking at the change of societal life throughout these countries. I believe that it's also important to view if these countries have been able to adapt to this change in the world or if the rhetoric has always been the same. My hypothesis is, in a comparison of gender equality throughout countries in Europe in the last 50 years, those countries with a majority of conservative views will be more likely to have less equality among genders than those having a majority of liberal views controlling for education, age, and religious affiliations. My null hypothesis would be a rise in conservative parties elected to office will have no effect on equality among genders in the European Union. The data sources that I plan to use are the Special Eurobarometer 493, Discrimination in the EU, including LGBTI, from the EU Open Data Portal, which is a survey that focuses on the person's perceptions, attitudes, and opinions of discrimination based on ethnic origin, skin color, sexual orientation, gender, age, disability, religion, and beliefs. The Gender Equality Index from the EU Open Data Portal is a composite indicator that measures the complex concept of gender equality and, based on the EU policy framework, assists in monitoring progress of gender equality across the EU over time. There is also the potential of using the Gender Statistics database through the European Institute for Gender Equality, which is a comprehensive knowledge center for gender statistics and information on various aspects of inequality between women and men. Another source to use would be the United Nations Development Program, which has a dataset information spanning several years focusing on human development data, and their reports have been released most years since 1990 and have explored different themes throughout the human development approach. I'm also planning on using legislation from distinct nations, and since I'm a registered paralegal, I have the knowledge of using Westlaw and LexisNexis. I believe that my research will add to the conversation a starting point for why gender inequality exists, how it affects the cycle of socialization, any identifying actors that exacerbate the issue, and steps on how the issue could be changed. I believe that if this research is able to understand why it happens more often in one country that is similar to another, society could find a common ground to implement change. For example, Poland is known to have a very Catholic influence on politics, which influences legislation. However, Ireland is Catholic as well, yet sees equality issues very differently. I hope this research that I develop will inspire others to understand what causes the oppression and provides an understanding to the basic roots of gender inequality.